There's some stuff that's on my heart this morning that I really feel led to share with you. Now, this goes without saying, but every week I feel like I have something from the Lord for you. So that doesn't make today special, but those of you who've been here at City Alive, you've heard me preach many times, you kind of know how I'm wired. I'm a guy, I'm a studier. I like to read the word. I like to dive deep into it. I like to chew on it throughout the week. I like to present it in a certain way. I'm a passionate teacher of the word by nature. That's my style. I come to bring the text to you. I try to bring some quotes, and I try to explore, what does this passage say? Or what is this topic? What does the Bible say about this topic? And I had a whole thing prepared today about Colossians 2 and 3. And all day on my heart yesterday, I just felt the Lord yeah, that's not it. And let me start here. About a year ago, a few of us in the church got to meet with a missionary. He's an American missionary to Kenya. And we asked him, just some of his story and observations about life on the field and what it was like being back in the States. And a few of you guys were there. He said something really interesting, and it struck me ever since. He said, coming back to America after several years on the field, he said, it just feels like there's a heaviness over this country that I don't remember being there before. And he said, you'll be at a red light and you'll look at the car next to you and people's faces, they're just empty. They're just downcast. You'll stand in line somewhere and people they just live with this cloud of despair. Just this heaviness on this nation. And he's coming from a context in Kenya where it's actually a majority Christian country. And to see the difference, it struck me, and it's been weighing on my heart. And today, I want to read from Psalm 18 to you. This was just in my spirit all morning today and all day yesterday. And so, if I have your permission, we're going to go off-roading today. I'm throwing my notes out the window. Psalm 18, verse 1 says, I love you, Yahweh, my strength. Anytime you see Lord, all caps, in your Old Testament, that's the divine name, Jehovah, Yahweh. He says, Yahweh, the Lord, is my rock, my fortress, my deliverer, my God, my rock where I seek refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I called to Yahweh, who is worthy of praise, and I was saved from my enemies. The ropes of death were wrapped around me. The torrents of destruction terrified me. The ropes of Sheol, that's the realm of the dead in the Old Testament, the underworld. The ropes of Sheol entangled me, and the snares of death confronted me. I called to Yahweh in my distress, and I cried to my God for help. From his temple he heard my voice, and my cry to him reached his ears. Now notice this here. Then the earth shook and quaked. The foundations of the mountains trembled, and they shook because he burned with anger. Smoke rose from his nostrils, and consuming fire came from his mouth. Coals were set ablaze by it. He bent the heavens and came down. Total darkness beneath his feet. He rode on a cherub and flew, soaring on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his hiding place, dark storm clouds his canopy around him. And from the radiance of his presence, clouds swept onward with hail and blazing coals. I want you to see this picture here. Yahweh thundered from heaven. The Most High made his voice heard. He shot his arrows and scattered them. He hurled lightning bolts and routed them, and the depths of the sea became visible. The foundations of the world were exposed at your rebuke, Yahweh, at the blast of the breath of your nostrils. Then verse 16. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He pulled me out of deep water, and he rescued me from my powerful enemy and from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my calamity, but Yahweh was my support. He brought me out to a spacious place, and he rescued me because he delighted in me. Man, what a passage. Nothing that I tell you is gonna be as good as what I just read. You know, in the scriptures, at multiple points, we see these profound visions of the glory of God. We see Moses on Mount Sinai. The radiant beauty, the glory of God is shining so strong that when Moses comes down the mountain, the Israelites told him to cover his face because his face was shining so brightly because he had seen God face to face. The prophet Isaiah chapter 6, has a vision of Yahweh's throne, and he's high and lifted up, and his robe is so glorious that his robe fills the whole temple, and he sees the angels circling around the throne. Ezekiel chapter 1 sees a vision of God who's burning. It says that the form of God was like molten metal in a furnace, that God is blazing. Daniel chapter 7 sees a vision of the throne room of God, and it says that 10,000 times 10,000 angels stood in attendance before the Lord, and his eyes were like flames of fire. And so across the scriptures, we see these glimpses into the person of God. And what we see here in Psalm 18, you have to see this morning, is that David, he sees this vision of God, that David is down bad. He said, the ropes of Sheol entangled me. My enemies surround me. And he sees, as he calls on the Lord, this crazy line. It says, God bent the heavens and came down. What an image. What a picture. That God in his temple hears the cry, bends the heavens. And there's this contrast here that it says in verse 11 that darkness is his hiding place and storm clouds are around him. And yet there's a radiance to his presence. I love this picture that these dark storm clouds are surrounding the Lord as he begins to descend from the heavens. And yet it's not all darkness, that out of these dark storm clouds comes coals of fire, lightning bolts flashing from the presence of God. This is an intense scene. There's an intensity to this scene that the Most High bends the heavens and lightning surrounds him and he's breathing fire and the earth begins to quake. Now here's what is so crazy about this. And man, there's a fire that's in my heart for you this morning. Here's what I want you to see. What provokes this response from the Lord? What moves the heart of God that he would respond in this dynamic way, in this compelling way, in this honestly kind of terrifying way? What brings that out of God, that he would leave his temple and bend the heavens and come down? You know what it is? Verse 5, the ropes of Sheol entangled me, the snares of death confronted me, but I called to Yahweh in my distress. I cried to my God for help, and from his temple he heard my voice, and my cry to him reached his ears. You know what moves God? You. You know what moves God? Your cry for help. And it is at that cry that God bends the heavens and comes down. It's at the cry of a man or woman who says, God, the ropes of death entangled me. Sheol has come upon me. I'm drowning in deep waters. And yet from that place, when you and I think we are light years from God, we are miles from the presence of God, it says that in his holy temple, he hears our cry. He hears that cry for help, and what happens? He moves. I love this picture, and I'm telling you, church, this is a word for your life today. If you would ask me, man, Joey, what moves you? What animates you? What keeps you going? What makes you move? I know how I would answer that question. How would you answer it? What are the things that make you tick? What are the things that if something happens to your kid, you jump off that couch, right? Or you have a dream and a goal, and man, that motivates you to move every day, to work hard every day. What are the things that move you? And yet the thing about the Lord is that what moves him more than anything is a cry for help. It is a desperation that says, God, I'm in trouble if you don't show up. And the beauty of it is that when you and I think we are too far gone, we are too far away, it's in that very place that he's actually drawn to us the most. You see, we think it's when life is going well and everything is awesome and things are wonderful that we are closest to the Lord. But if I can tell you from my personal life, the times I've seen God bend the heavens and come down are the times that I've said, God, I've got nothing left. God, I can't do it. I can't figure it out. There's no one to help me. The ropes of death entangle me. My enemies surround me. And it's when I say, God, without any kind of polished prayer, without any kind of performance, just saying, God, I need you to show up in my life. That's when he comes. That's when he moves. And someone needs to know this morning that you move the heart of God. You move the very glory of God. And that when you call on him, the storm clouds begin to move and the lightning bolts begin to come. And God begins to part the sea, drive out your enemies, and pull you out of that place into new life again. It's your cry for help. Church, I just feel this morning, that for so many of us, our God is too abstract. That he's just an idea out there. He's just a concept somewhere. He's just a code of ethics that we should live by. He's just a philosophy. He's just a way of living life. And I want you to know this morning, I want you to see the one who bends the heavens for you. I want you to see the one who breathes fire for you. I want you to see the one who the earth begins to quake for you. Some of you know in your head, you know in your theology that God is good, but you don't feel it in here. And there's so many ways that our theology is in one place, that he's good, he's strong, he's wise, but in practice we feel like, man, he's just out there. He's so far from me. I can't reach him. I can't attain him. You move his heart. You move his heart. We think, well, God, he's kind of old and tired, kind of sleepy. And I want you to know the living God this morning. I want you to know the living God today. I want you to know the one whose ears are tuned in for your cry, the one whose ears are ready for your call of help, that he's looking, that he's waiting, that he's expecting, and that he's looking forward to it. And when you and I give that cry, it ascends all the way to the temple in heaven, and he hears. Picking up in verse 28, same chapter, it says, Yahweh, you light my lamp. My God illuminates my darkness. With you, I can attack a barricade, and with my God, I can leap over a wall. God, his way is perfect. The word of Yahweh is pure, and he is a shield for all those who take refuge in him. Look at this here, verse 31. For who is God besides Yahweh? And who is a rock? Only our God. God, he clothes me with strength, and he makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer and sets me securely on the heights. He trains my hands for war, and my arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have given me the shield of your salvation, and your right hand upholds me. Your humility exalts me, and you make a spacious place beneath me for my steps, and my ankles do not give way. I love this idea here that there's a purity. He said the word of the Lord, the word of Yahweh, it's pure. And you know, we hear the word pure today in our modern context, and we think about someone who's holier than thou, someone who looks down on everybody else, someone who's too good for everybody else. And that's not the kind of God that we're talking about. That's not the kind of purity that we're talking about. We're talking about the purity that if I were to say to you that here's something of pure gold, it's pure. It's precious. It's valuable. There's no impurities in it. There's no contaminants in it. And you have to know this morning that the kind of God that we serve, his word, his will, his plan for your life, it's only good. It's only pure. It's only kind. It's only wise. James 1:17 says this, every good and perfect gift comes down from above, from the Father of lights, and in him there's no shadow of change. I love this, that he's only light. No matter which way you come at him, no matter what time you ask him, no matter what kind of mood you think he'll be in, turns out it's always good. There's no shifting shadows. There's no darkness. There's no hidden things around the corner. There's no stuff deep down in his heart that you haven't seen. I'm telling you, with this God, what you see is what you get. And I can tell you from my life, I have seen the face of God. And it's only good. It's only light. It's only wisdom. It's only strength. And you need reminded of that today, church. I'm not here today. I'm not standing before you today because I'm the most spiritual, because I'm the most mature. I'm just telling you, I'm a guy who called on him for help, and he heard my cry. That's the kind of God that we serve. 4 times in this psalm, David calls God a rock. 4 times. You see, in this life, the only thing you're guaranteed is change. There's an old line that says change is the only constant. The only thing that's going to stay the same in your life is that nothing's ever going to stay the same. That's the only guarantee. Things will change from season to season. Things will change from day to day. And what you and I want to do is we want to hold on to work success, hold on to health, to money, to good times, to bad times. Different seasons come and go, and we try to find things that are stable, try to find things that'll ground us. And what happens in life is that politics changes, the economy changes, your health changes, the people around you change. And what you have to know is that in this life, all you're going to have is change. Everything is shifting sand, but there's one rock, and it's the Lord. And David says, who is a rock? What is a rock? But our God alone. And in this life, you're going to have shifting things, changing things. You're going to feel like you found your stride. Something else will happen. Things will be good in one area of your life, bad in a different area of your life. And what you have to do in that moment is you can keep trying to chase sand for a firm footing, or you can plant yourself on the rock. You can plant yourself on a cornerstone that does not move, that is not shaken, and it's never failed me yet, church. I have seen the goodness of God in the land of the living, the psalmist says. At another point, the psalmist says, his goodness and his mercy have followed me all the days of my life. You know, this week, I was in this room praying. I was actually vacuuming. Great time to encounter God, believe it or not. And I had that Bethel song, The Goodness of God, playing. Y'all, I had to turn the vacuum off because tears just began pouring down my face. That I can look at this God who's a rock and I can say, all my life you've been faithful. All my life you've been good. Church, I'm telling you, all the stuff that we're chasing for stability, for meaning, for happiness, it's all sand. But I've got good news for you today. I found a rock, and it's Jesus Christ. I found a rock, and I can tell you that in every season of my life, he's never shaken. He's never faltered. He's never stumbled. And as I've called on the Lord, I found ground that doesn't change. And some of you, I look out across this room, and I know what you've been through. I know what you are going through. You're grieving loss. I've had people in this church, a couple deaths from family members this week. One was 57. The other was 67. Too young. Some of you, you've lost spouses, lost kids. Some of you financially, you're hurting. Some of you, your spouse left you. Some of you don't know how you're going to pay the bills this week. Maybe you got a diagnosis from the doctor and there's no answer. Come to the rock, church. Come to the rock that does not fail. Come to the rock that does not move. For who is a rock but our God? Who is a rock but the Lord? Final verse I want to read to you here, and then we're going to pray. Verse 46. The Lord lives. Blessed be my rock. And the God of my salvation is exalted. David, down bad, calls to the Lord. The living God comes down in the storm, breathing fire, flashes of lightning, parts the waters, parts the sea, Red Sea style, pulls David out again. And what is the response to that kind of salvation other than blessed be my rock? See, what you have to do in the crisis is you have to remember all the ways that he's already showed up in your life. I had a pastor tell me one time, Joey, never forget when God does a miracle in your life, because that miracle will be the fuel for your faith for your next miracle. And you've got to hold on to that testimony. You've got to hold on to that breakthrough, because when you get in the next storm, you got to remember, I've been through a few storms and I'm still standing. I've been through a few storms and He's brought me out of it. And that's why you got to surround yourself with some older saints who've been through a few storms, because when the storms come, they're not worried about it, because they found a rock. They found a rock who's not moved. They found a rock who's not shaken. And so who you surround yourself with matters in moments like this. And you got to remember, so much of the Psalms is David talking himself into remembering all the things God's already done. And if you and I would remember all the ways that He's already saved us, like David, we will say, blessed be my rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. He's a rock. That's all I got for you today. The rock won't move. He won't move. Just listen, I want to pray for you today. Would you stand? I know this is a little bit of a different style, a little bit of a different service here. I just want to ask every person who says, Joey, I need God to do something in my life. Maybe it's a giant thing. Maybe it's a little thing. I don't care what it is. If you just say, Joey, I want to call on the Lord this morning because I need Him to show up, I want you to come forward. No fancy invitation. No special call. Just come. Fix your eyes on the rock. Fix your eyes on the one who hears from His temple. Fix your eyes on the one whose ears are attuned to you. God, right now, would you come? God, right now, would you move? God, right now, would you begin to pour out your Spirit? God, you see every need. God, you see every broken body. You see every broken marriage. You see every broken heart. You see every broken mind. And God, right now I pray that by the power of your Spirit, you would bend the heavens and come down. That you would move heaven and earth, God, to show up in our lives today. God, that you would do miracles in the house today. Do miracles in our families today. Do miracles in our finances today. Right now, right where you're at, just begin to call on the name of the Lord.